Welcome to Emerging Tech Mastery, a show that demystifies cutting-edge technology like cryptocurrency, the blockchain, metaverse, NFTs, virtual reality, the maker movement, artificial intelligence, machine learning, cloud, edge, and even fog computing. Strap in as we ride into the fourth industrial revolution. Emerging Tech Mastery provides actionable knowledge regardless of skill level from experts in the trenches. We piece together this intel in easy-to-consume media formats, processes, and procedures. See you in the future.
Hey everyone, Aaron Mungle here, host of Emerging Tech Mastery, and I am here to talk about the NeRF Summit today with our immersive technology correspondent. That would be Eric Azaras. Eric, thanks for coming back. I'm sure people are very familiar with you by now.
Hey, happy to be here.
So you are a part of a few different things, but one of the things you do is you are a basically evangelist, if you will, for the VFA, the Volumetric Format Association, which is a trade association or association around the industry of volumetric. And you guys are bringing people together and facilitating conversations. And you did a summit after SIGGRAPH, which we hinted at in the last show where we were recapping SIGGRAPH. And it was really awesome and really fun. So a lot happened there. And I do want to touch on what happened at the NeRF Summit, but you know what? People are probably wondering, well, what is NeRF?
NeRF. Okay, so NeRF is an acronym. It stands for Neural Radiance Fields. In very basic terms, you take 2D images and you take those 2D images, feed them into a neural network, and it converts those pictures into a 3D scene. So basically convert 2D pictures into a 3D model. Neural radiance fields. So there's 3 words there that we should define so we understand what it means. So neural refers to the neural network. That's the machine learning parts. Let's say there is a red car in the parking lot on a nice sunny day, and you want to convert it into a 3D object, right? So what you would do is you would take a series of photos all around it. So you capture the whole entirety of that car. So taking a picture from the front, from the side, above, left and right, all the angles. Anywhere between 20 to 100 so pictures, right? So you have your iPhone or your Android phone and you snap photos, front, you shuffle your feet, move over to the left, okay, a little bit to the left, a little bit, and you take photos until you have about 100 of them. And then you take those photos and then you feed them into a neural network. That's where the machine learning part comes in. That's where the neural part comes in. And the algorithm is able to synthesize and make sense of those pictures. Because remember, you took these pictures from every angle. So it starts to create a model and generate what the entirety of that car would look like on your computer, right? And then you're able to move around, zoom in, look above, use your mouse and keyboard to look at the car that you created. Remember, you took two-dimensional pictures, but then the neural radiance field algorithm is able to convert that into 3D, into a 3D scene. That's where the neural part comes in. Now, the radiance field is where it really shines in a very literal sense, because what makes NeRF so special and what makes people so excited about it is that this technique allows the person to capture an object in the real world and create a realistic representation, a realistic digital representation of that object while preserving the lights in the shininess or the specularity of that object. And that adds another layer of realism to kind of illustrate why this is so important. So let's say that you are sitting in a parking lot, you're looking at the sexy sports car, Italian sports car, and if you're looking at it at the hood and it's got all these curves and it's a shiny day and it's reflective because maybe somebody they put a fresh coat of wax on the hood of the car, it's shiny and the sun's beating down on it. You're looking at it and you see the glimmer of that sexy red sports car, right? You're looking at it straight on. You see the headlights, you see the shiny bumper, the handles, they're silver, right? But then if you look at it from a different angle, the reflections and the shininess changes, right? Depending on if you're looking at it straight on or you're looking at it from a different angle. That's just the way the world works, right? The way the light bounces and interacts with the material, because it's a shiny new car, right? And then maybe the tires are rubber and they don't shine as much, right? So all those characteristics of those real objects, well, if you want to create a realistic digital representation of that object, you have to preserve that. And that's what NeRF does. That's where NeRF shines, because it's able to understand, because remember, you fed the algorithm 20 to 100 different pictures from different angles, right? So it's able to take those pictures and understand, oh, you're looking at it from straight on. We're going to make it shiny. All right. Oh, you're looking at it from kind of the angle. Oh, well, the light bounces off of the hood from a different way. So now the color looks a little different. Like the tint of the hood is more of a light red more than a deep red, right? And then the bumper is silver. So if you ever seen like a really reflective bumper on like one of those old time cars, right? One of those like classic cars, it kind of reflects like the ground or whatever's near it, right? So all that stuff, all that information, all that data, the neural network remembers it. So no matter what angle you look at the car from, it will remember that shininess and it will add another layer of realism to it. So basically, you are creating a digital twin of a real object, including the shininess of the car and the way you captured it in that moment in time. If it was in the morning or the afternoon and maybe there's shadows, it remembers it. So that's what makes it so powerful. And a lot of people are excited about it because you don't have to necessarily hire an artist to create a 3D model from scratch. You can just take out your phone and within 30 seconds, you take snap, take some photos, feed it into the algorithm. It spits out a realistic 3D model within 15 to 20 minutes. Boom. So that's why it's so awesome. And there's so many different applications to NeRF. And that's what we talked about at the VFA NeRF Summit. We had a lot of different companies come from different verticals, I guess you could say. We had some creative folks. We had some people in virtual production. We had some developers coming up with new formats. We had some heavy hitters like some 3D game engine companies attend. We had some telecom companies. We had NVIDIA themselves. They were there. So it was awesome. It was a big meeting of the minds when it comes to NeRF, which is appropriate because we're talking a neural network.
Yeah, let's jump into the NeRF Summit in a second. But before we do that, and again, we're not going to get too technical here,
Sure.
Just to be clear with everyone. There's so many more people out there that are way smarter than us that know all the math and all the sort of technical descriptions. But we were going to attempt to talk a little bit about how it works and why it's significant, and then also cover some enabling technologies. So you started to explain it. How does NeRF work, and why would you say it's significant and cutting edge?
Sure. So the way it works is you take a series of pictures of an object. Let's say it's that red sports car, and you cover all the different angles, typically 20 to 100 different pictures from different angles, and you feed those pictures, that data, into an algorithm. And the way it works is that the algorithm is looking at those pictures, and it's trying to identify whether there is stuff in that 3D space and what color that stuff is. So that's the starting canvas. It's think of a glass case full of water vapor particles, right? That's the starting point. And they're just all particles. They're there and they're all gray, let's say, right? That's the starting point. As we feed these pictures into the neural network, it's saying, it's shooting it's saying, hey, okay, we're going to shoot this laser and, oh, wait a second. In this space, in this XYZ coordinate, XYZ, that's just where things are in space. If you know pixels on a monitor, if you're on a computer monitor or you're playing a video game, right? That's where things are in XY, but then if you add a third dimension, that's the Z axis. So where things are in space. That's all you really need to know. So, okay, is there something there? Oh, there is. Okay, so we're going to save that little water vapor particle. We're going to save it. Oh, and what color is it? Oh, wait, well, it's red because we're looking at the red hood of the car. So we're going to assign a color to that little water vapor color, red. Okay, boom. We're going to color it red. And it's going to be kind of a dark red because maybe it's near the lower part of the car. Okay. And how dense is it? Okay. We're talking density. Well, it's pretty dense. Okay. Because it's a big chunk of the car. So it's a red dense chunk. Okay. No. Oh, we're going to shoot another little laser here. Oh, and that's intersecting with what looks like a tire. And that tire is a dark black color. Oh, okay. And it's pretty dense. And it's kind of spherical shape, or it's a kind of a wheel shape, right? So we're going to fill in those little particles, right? Remember those little vapors? Okay, we're going to keep those and we're going to color them black. And so on and so forth. Kind of rinse and repeat that process over and over again, given all the pictures that you fed into the algorithm. Remember, we took 20 to 100 pictures from different angles. So the neural network is smart enough to start assembling and making sense of those pictures. So, and it's able to predict, this is where the neural network and machine learning portion comes in, is able to predict, if this picture of this car was taken from this angle and we compare it to another picture was taken from this angle, well, wait a second, that is probably the shape of the headlight, of the right headlight. And then, we got another thing, because we've been feeding it data from different angles. This is probably what it looks like. Oh, it's like circular. Okay. And then it starts to, just through trial and error, start to create and shape, almost as if you had like molding clay, right? You start out with a block of, this gray block of molding clay, just like we have that block of water vapor in a glass case, but it's malleable, right? It's shaping, and the more it's learning, this is the neural network part, it's learning, okay, we're going to start massaging this and shaping this because we're feeding it data. So eventually, it depends on how fast your computing system is. Through time, maybe it takes 15 minutes or 30 minutes. It's going through and understanding, and boom, finally, because you fed it 20 to 100 pictures, it's going to, voila, make what is a representation of that car.
Yeah, like a cube or like a phone booth full of clouds or water vapor. And I think that's a good construct for people to keep in their mind. Like the person that's like getting the dollars blown around them and they're like grabbing as many dollars as you can. Like I want people to imagine that, except instead of someone grabbing dollars being blown by wind, there's like a cloud in there. So that's our starting canvas, if you will, of the explanation.
No, that's that's pretty accurate, right? And the good news is that the robot's doing it for us, because if we humans were to do that manually by ourselves, that would take a very long time. It'd be a very painstaking process. But because the algorithm is smart enough and fast enough to do that, it's able to process and, computing, right? It's able to take those pictures, and I like the way you described it, right? You're painting these individual molecules that are floating in the air, right? And then eventually it's going to turn what seem to be random molecules into a very cohesive picture that is a replica of that red car that we took pictures of. But if you take a video or a photo with your phone, what you're doing is you're capturing whatever is in that rectangle in your little viewfinder on your phone, right? And that's what it is. So if you're to post it on Facebook or Instagram or whatever it is, or you're to post a video on YouTube, it is a two-dimensional video. And that's great if that's what you are looking to do. You want to post like a fun Twitter or TikTok, or you want to share a picture of your dog, and that's perfectly fine. That's what it does. But if you wanted to go to the next level and say, okay, let's say that you are creating a game, right? Maybe you're making a VR game, or maybe you're creating a 3D experience in the metaverse, or you want to make a digital object of a shoe that you're going to sell on eBay. Or if you want, you may have seen this, if you go to some of those real estate websites where you can do like a 3D tour of a house, right? So imagine instead of just scrolling through a gallery of pictures, like, okay, scroll, looking picture, next picture, next picture. Imagine being able to actually immerse yourself in that new house that's for sale. And you're actually using your mouse to click and drag and move around the hallways and freely look around. Oh, there's a ceiling. Oh, look at the windows, right? You're able to look around instead of you have the agency to and freedom to move around instead of just looking at static photos, right? So that's what we're talking about with the NeRF capture, right? You're creating a 3D representation of the real world that you're able to navigate around, right? Instead of flipping through pictures. So yeah, there's a lot of different purposes for having those 3D objects. So and NeRF is a way to achieve that. It's able to synthesize different pictures that we feed it, and then create a 3D representation that's fully that you can fully move around.
Now we're painting a 3D object, and I think of it as clouds with molecules, and each molecule is being painted, but it's being painted by the pictures you took that you fed to the machine. So it's actually like it is a robot painting the molecules of a cloud based on the pictures you fed it. When we say 3D, like 3D has been thrown around so often that sometimes it's easy to miss when something like this comes out. We are actually creating a 3D object, and we can go into like how to use these objects later on, but just to kind of give people an idea, this 3D object that you captured could go in VR or AR or like the metaverse, right? Because it's now a 3D object, and the object itself is different. So maybe really quick, just to kind of bring us from 2D into 3D, draw the comparison of if I just took a picture or a video, how does that compare with photogrammetry was flat? You were saying it has a flatter look. So yeah, tell me a little bit about I took a 4K picture or I took a 4K video, and how does that compare with what we have now?
Yeah. So I like what you were saying about the kind of slapping a picture on a 2D plane, right? So one way to think about it, I was just thinking about this, is basically it'd be like having a cardboard cutout that you would have kind of standing in the metaverse. Have you ever seen like a cardboard cutout maybe at the supermarket or something, right? Versus having the actual person there, right? Right. So because something that's flat and 2-dimensional, if you look at it like like if you look at it straight on, it looks like Taylor Swift. I don't know why that popped in my head, like a Taylor Swift cardboard cutout. But if you look at it, from the right, oh, you see that, okay, it's just made out of cardboard and it's flat, and then it's not real. But then if you had a 3D version of Taylor Swift, then it'd be like as if she's standing right there, because it's her, right? So
Okay, I got another analogy. It's like the wax museum. It creates the wax museum of an object, because, like, at a wax museum.
Yes, I like that.
To your point,
yes.
like
the wax museum.
Because that's the thing about a wax museum is, like you said, it's not a cardboard cutout that I look to the side and I'm like, oh God, what a letdown. The wax museum, and part of why it's so amazing is because there's that realism. It's like, oh my gosh, you're almost getting freaked out standing next to the wax version of the
I love
person.
that.
Yeah, so that's something we'll have to put that in the analogy toolkit there. But I think there's a feeling from the wax museum, right? And if anyone's been to a wax museum, and if you haven't, maybe check it out if you really want to understand an analog equivalent of this. But part of, I think, the draw is that it's the experience of the object. Like, I love that you said the cardboard cutout, because like when you realize it's flat, like maybe you could trick me at a certain angle initially, but like eventually, especially if I'm walking around the cutout, like I'm going to know it's a cardboard cutout because you see that it's 2D. But even at the wax museum, it's like, wow, this is a full live sort of rendition of this person, and it feels different because it feels like that almost looks like them. And I think that's the basis for why this 3D asset creation is so significant, because the experience of the object is no longer in 2D.
Exactly. Yeah, that is perfect. We're gonna have to reuse that one, because imagine that. Imagine going to Madame Tussauds wax museum, and then it's just full of like cardboard cutouts. I'm like, I want a refund. I want my money back. This is whack. This wax museum is whack. I don't like this. Right. This 2D cutout of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, this is stupid, but if I had like the real like volumetric version of Dwayne the Rock Johnson, him with his giant stature and 6 foot whatever he is, with his eyebrow raised like in the WWE days, right? Like that'd be cool, and that just makes such a such a more impact on the person, right? Like viewing it, like that is awesome. So yeah, that is what we're
We
talking
went to
about.
AWE and we did an episode on that, but I don't know if you remember, but the guy from the Major League Baseball was on stage with another gentleman. Well, I think someone had asked the question, "Oh, like how are you guys using, I can't remember exactly what it was, something to the effect of like 3D or like metaverse or some aspect of that, right?" And his answer was, "Well, we're allowing people to interact with their favorite star." And so I thought that was really cool because there is a value to, I mean, it seems a little silly maybe to people that are not fully aware of how this is playing out, but like if I basically said, instead of me giving you this cardboard cutout of your favorite football player, I'm giving you the wax museum in the metaverse, now you're creating a pretty cool fan experience. So there are applications of this because of the realism.
Yes, the realism. That is the key. That's why people are excited about this new technology, because it's realism. Now, to go back to the other concept you mentioned a few minutes ago, photogrammetry, this technique for capturing the real world contrasts with photogrammetry because of realism. But photogrammetry, it's it has its advantages, but it also has its disadvantages. The advantage is that you're able to create an accurate representation. And it's a similar process. You would take a series of photos to scan a real world object, but it's very tedious, very painstaking. But you would get like a 3D object in the end, but it's not very straightforward. And the disadvantage, so it's very painstaking. That's a disadvantage. Other disadvantage is that you lose a lot of the shimmer and glow and specularity, all the stuff that makes things look real. So you lose that. If you ever seen a photogrammetry scan, it kind of looks a little bit washed out. Like the colors, you lose a lot of the color and the shine, like for like that car, or maybe someone has a shiny head, reflecting the lights coming down on it on their forehead. You lose that in a photogrammetry scan. But with NeRF, you preserve that light and you preserve that realism. So that's what makes it. That's what NeRF. That's why NeRF is a little bit more exciting nowadays, because you preserve that realism. And then of course the third option would be for someone to take their 3D tools, like a 3D artist would create from scratch, and create a completely synthetic version of the rock. But the human eye, the human brain, is able to perceive whether something is fake. Like, it's that whole idea of the uncanny valley, if you're familiar with that term, where where you look at like a 3D model or 3D, or you're watching a movie like a CG, and there's like a CG version of Mark Hamill or some character from Star Wars, and something looks a little off. Like, it looks human, but it's not really. You could tell it's CG, and it ruins the immersion, right? It takes you out of the movie because it's fake, right? So with NeRF and all the new techniques in volumetric, they're trying to preserve the real person so it looks more realistic, and it creates that illusion.
And there's a quote by Jensen, the CEO of NVIDIA, and he said in his keynote, which I think they're still available, I think they put it on YouTube. So yeah, so it should be available indefinitely. I know some of the other SIGGRAPH keynotes may not, but anyway, the point I'm making is he said this quote that I just kind of laugh about, and it's going to stick with me, which is, physics makes us feel good. And I think that ties in with the realism. It's like the more realistic it's kind of replicated. And so I think that NeRF is a really good, I guess it's just like the science is getting more accurate, or the data is getting more accurate. As you said, photogrammetry is an approximation of what the object was. And frankly, that is a big term, because if the approximation is not that close, you, just like you said, you get taken out of the immersion, or, oh my God, it's 2D, what a letdown, right? But I think what's so interesting about this is that accuracy and realism, as we said a second ago, it creates a different feeling. Now, it's really a trip to watch these tech nerds and innovators building this stuff, but I was watching a lot of them talking, and there was some mingling after like the talks and in between the talks, and I was kind of wondering to myself, why is everyone so allured by this? But I think that's the answer was what we just said. It's real. It's the way the data is being put together. And by the way, a lot of people are scared of AI, and it's actually funny, we haven't really done any shows on AI. We've mentioned AI in shows, but I hadn't done a show on AI. But one thing that I just realized from what you just said was it is a Herculean task to do 3D up till this point. So basically any 3D artists are actually amazing because they were kind of working on a 2D plane, making it look 3D. And yes, you could create an asset in these programs that was actually 3D and a 3D object, like you could 3D print it. But I think what we're seeing here is there's a new way of the data being processed in a way that we could never do. And I think that the AI thing gets lost because we're so worried about the AI taking away our job. But I think the point that I'm realizing is no, the AI is allowing us to do things we could have never done, or it would have been an insane task for one person to do. And if they did anything at all with the 2D plane, 3D character design, for example, that's actually amazing. So it's easy to kind of look at it as, oh, we don't need 3D designers anymore. It's actually more like, no, those 3D designers are going to use NeRF to make even better 3D assets.
Yeah, exactly. It's a tool. It's another tool in the toolbox. Just like Painter has different brushes and palettes, right, to paint to recreate a scene, like to recreate like those happy trees, like Bob Ross. 3D artists, they have their own set of tools on their tool belt where they can use Blender and they can use game engines and they can use NeRF and just whatever combination of tools it takes to achieve those 3D happy trees, they'll use them. And I think we're in good. I think we're in good hands. And AI is only there to serve to help us. And so I don't think any of us have to be scared about AI taking over or completely replacing people, but I think we can look at it as a way to accelerate and get to our answer faster and get to our realism at a faster pace. So it is super exciting.
That's the biggest takeaway with AI is like, we could not do this before. And NVIDIA is excited because we're going to be buying their, chips and tech and GPUs. As you said in the SIGGRAPH episode, Jensen was he had this like hilarious quote, the more you buy, the more you save. And he just like almost was like amusingly like smirking as he said that. But he kind of makes a good point, which is that we are going to get this tech that allows us to do more things. And there is this sense of almost like people are bum rushing the opportunity to do those more things, right? And I think I'm kind of wondering if the excitement of this will fizzle out, but I don't think it will, because as we just said, more things that we couldn't do before are going to keep happening from this tech. So I know we've kind of dawdled there a good bit, but I think we did map out some good, frankly, just mental models and constructs for us to use and talk to people about. Before we get into the NeRF Summit, and you got a pretty good breakdown of like who was there, and in fact, you guys even took some video of it that you're going to tell us how we can check that out, but we're going to do a little summary. But before we get into that, what were some of the enabling technologies? And I know you already gave a pretty good like overview of NeRF itself, but anything other than what you had mentioned, were there any other enabling technologies in particular that make it work?
Sure. Yeah. So what you'll need, and I'll look at this as if you wanted to go outside right now. You were excited. You listened to this podcast. Now you want to run outside and make some NeRFs yourself, right? So there are a couple ways to do it. One is to have an iPhone with a functioning camera and maybe a nice pair of walking shoes, and that's about it, really, and have like a steady hand. So there is a product called Luma AI that allows you to take a NeRF capture, and you take the video. So you record a video of an object, and then you send it into the cloud, Luma's cloud, to process. Then it spits out the NeRF capture. Now that's the simplistic version. If you're a hobbyist or you're just dipping your toe into the whole world of NeRFs, that's how you do it. So that's how you would get started. And I guess that would be for the this is more appropriate for the how to get started portion of the episode, but that's what you do. But as far as enabling technologies, like stuff that's happening under the hood, one, we've got the instant NeRF, or we have the NeRF algorithm, the machine learning code. That's the stuff that's processing all the photos that you're taking. So luckily, all that stuff is open source and available. So if you are someone that likes to take it to the next level and you want to go beyond just what the app does, what the Luma app does, and you want to get your hands dirty with code, there is a way. There is a lot of great tutorials online on how to set that up on your own machine, and the code is free for you to download. Man, I just love open source code, don't you? It's very empowering. And then, so that's the one part. So that's one part. So part one is having code set up on your machine. And part two would be the hardware. What hardware would you need? So the hardware, just like on the previous example, is you would need some type of camera. It could be a phone. It could be a DSLR camera. It could be a mirrorless camera. You just need something to take pictures or videos. And then the second part would be to have an NVIDIA GPU. Oh, wow. So that's kind of why Jensen and everybody's excited about this NeRF and AI, because, hey, to run this code, to do all these amazing things, you've got to have powerful NVIDIA GPU because it's custom made to run on that GPU.
And just really quick on NVIDIA, and I know they're kind of like a power player right now, but it's funny because they've really leaned into this and frankly led the charge a bit. And I do wonder if AMD is going to dust off their playbook or dust off NVIDIA's playbook and maybe try to catch up or offer some of this functionality at all. But to your point, NVIDIA has just really optimized the tech and the code. And I think they are the leader, and they're almost playing that scientific researcher role as a corporation, which is really fascinating because, like you said, they are contributing to this sort of next wave, kind of like how Google really gave us a lot of the sort of baseline for tools with email. They created a really seamless email experience with Gmail. They created Chrome and had a really incredible browser experience. And really, I think they've really laid the groundwork, if you will, for stuff that's now not Google, right? Like you have Brave browser, and like that's more focused on privacy and security. And, you know, there's going to be more iterations. There's tons of open source ones that I'm sure the Linux people are screaming, no, you need to mention that one. I know I'm mentioning the big names, but again, this is kind of where we're at. And so, yeah, they've really led the charge. I think that's a good one to mention. All right. Well, should we jump into the NeRFs?
Yeah, no, for sure. I was just going to say, yeah, I mean, so to run NeRFs locally on your machine, you need the hardware. Kind of like if you want to play a video game on a PC, you need to have the specs. You need to have the right CPU, right? Or otherwise you can't play the game. Just like for NeRFs, if you want to run the NeRFs, you have to have the right specs. So yeah, let's jump in.
We covered honestly, I think a task a lot of people wouldn't want to tackle, talking about what exactly is that stuff and how does it work. And be lucky, everyone, we didn't start breaking out math problems, because if you were at the event like we were, there were countless slides that were showing algebra and geometry. And you know what? Yeah. I wasn't very good at math, so that made me feel very in over my head. So I hope that was a little bit helpful for everyone. But yes, let's jump into the NeRF Summit. Again, all the tech we just described, these are the people creating it. These are the unknown, unsung heroes among people that came before, of course, but the people of today that are building on what has been done up till this point. We're at the NeRF Summit. So, Eric, what was the NeRF Summit and what happened there?
Yeah, the NeRF Summit was a little mini conference at the tail end of SIGGRAPH 2023 in Los Angeles. So this was hosted by the VFA, the Volumetric Format Association, and it took place in lovely Burbank, California, so just north of the LA Convention Center. I don't know, like 40 minutes. Well, everything's 40 minutes, right, in LA?
Yeah, LA is an hour from LA. That's the meme.
It took place at a studio called KinoFlow. And KinoFlow is a company that specializes in manufacturing lights, like special digital lights for production, for film and TV production. And yeah, it was an all-day affair of a lot of people in the volumetric and NeRF industry coming together and sharing their thoughts. Everyone came up and gave a half-hour presentation sharing what they were doing in the volumetric and NeRF space. So we had a combination of developers, and we had some creatives, we had some hardware manufacturers, we had a lot of different minds that are in the space coming together and sharing. And so it was really cool, really exciting. A lot of people exchanging information, and we have a tendency to just focus on what we're doing because, hey, we got to push this stuff forward. But it was great just being able to talk to creatives and make those connections and see what other folks are doing and how we could all collaborate and just do a knowledge share of all the great research and development we've all been doing individually and coming together.
Now, you have a pretty good roster. I mean, this roster was a serious who's who. And yeah, so who attended and who presented,
so
more importantly?
So we'll start off from start to finish. The roster, so it took place at KinoFlow, and to kick off, we had Magic Box, and the Magic Box is a virtual production truck. So we've been talking, and we talked about virtual production in past episodes, and in this episode. Basically, it's lots of high quality LED screens that create the effect of a real environment. It's used in VFX. It's used for VFX in TV and movies. And instead of a green screen, you have really big screens instead of having the actors kind of use their imagination. So it's pretty cool. So imagine a virtual production studio, but on wheels. So instead of having the cast and crew and all the people on the team, which is very expensive, going to a studio and scheduling time to work in a studio, the production truck comes to you. It was really neat. It was really cool because he kind of opened up the barn doors and, you saw the doors open up and you saw the 4 screens. There was the center screen, left screen, right screen, and then there was the ceiling as well. And inside they actually had a red sports car. Hey, and inside, and they were showing off how they do scenes that you may have seen in film and TV. So just think about like the last Netflix series that you saw. And whenever there was a driving scene, chances are they were not really on the road. They were not in a car driving on the road. Chances are they were on a virtual production stage, and they were having the background move. In the background, they had a video of the highway moving in the back, and the car itself was stationary, and the actors were talking or driving or doing their dialogue, but it was the background that was moving, not the car itself. So that's an example of something that you may have seen with virtual production. So it's a virtual production wheel. I mean, it was a car that we saw, so it was like wheels on wheels, and it was pretty neat. So he was showing off that technology. And what does that have to do with NeRF? Well, we talked about the backgrounds, right? The highways, maybe they're in a desert scene, maybe the in the TV series that they're shooting, the character is driving to Las Vegas. You want to show the desert background. Well, instead of having a synthetic background made by CG artists, you can use a NeRF capture and have a photorealistic version of that desert in the background. So yeah, it just adds that layer of immersion. And chances are you've seen something like that on a Netflix show, but you did not even realize it. You were not even thinking about it because it was so convincing. So yeah, the magic of Hollywood.
Yeah, and I think that's something that's very common, and it's almost like a standard now. Like, it's almost getting to a point where you don't even do it the old way anymore. You're literally, this is how we do it now. And that was in great part due to the pandemic and having those constraints of not being able to travel. But wow, did that kick the doors down to this new way. And by the way, we're not going back. And you had another speaker who you're going to mention here that literally is one of the top, if not the top leader in VP. They're calling it virtual production. We're already to acronyms. I barely even understood the term, and we're already at acronyms. But yeah, tell us a little more about who was after Magic Box.
So after that, there was Fearless Productions. There is a producer called Snehal. He's been involved in the technical and entertainment industry. He's produced some YouTube videos for some really big YouTube channels, and his latest project is creating a cyberpunk futuristic Bollywood traditional music video that uses drum and bass, and he wants to use AI and all the latest technologies to create something, to create this awesome sci-fi experience. And I know I just said a mouthful there, but he has very ambitious ideas. And it was really neat because he was one of the creatives. He one of the creative presenters that day at the NeRF Summit, and he gave his perspective about how he wants to leverage the tools that all the other companies are inventing and use it in a creative way. So he wants to leverage AI, he wants to leverage volumetric capture, he wants to use virtual production. So his idea is to have this hero, this hero character, just dance and fight battles in this futuristic cyberpunk Blade Runner type of world. But he wants a lot of the scenes to be AI generated. He wants the character to be volumetrically captured, then thrown on a virtual production stage. So anything and everything. So it was very cool to hear from the perspective of the users, the people that are going to use this technology. And it was really awesome getting to hear him talk about his passion and what he wants to do with all this awesome stuff that we're inventing.
So you have users of the technology, but then you also have people that are maintaining infrastructure or selling the equipment, and that would be none other than KinoFlow, and they are selling lights. And it's very interesting how the light situation is shifting. It's no longer just a little dinky light bulb to make things brighter.
Exactly. I mean, yeah, we've come a long way from going from the candle to the incandescent light bulb to the smart light that a lot of us have in our homes. Well, KinoFlow, the president, he's called Frater. He is also the host of the VFA Summit. He showed off his technology and its capabilities. So these are not your grandfather's lights. They are smart lights. They're digital lights. And what you can actually do is you can hook up video from a laptop into these lights, and you could create digital representations of that video that you feed into it. So, for example, if you wanted to create a scene where there's the flickering of a campfire, instead of flashing the lights kind of orange on and off to simulate the fire, you can actually have the fire truly displayed on the lights. So it adds realism, and it's flexible. So I mean, that's kind of a reoccurring theme here: the ability to add realism, the ability to have creative flexibility, and cost savings, right? Being able to digitally swap out different scenes very quickly, just like with virtual production. You can change it from mountain scene to a desert scene to an ocean scene. With these lights, you can do exactly the same thing. You can make it a moonlight setting. You can make it fire. You can make it futuristic. Whatever you want, at the push of a button, it's done. So very exciting. And I just love when people talk about the practical applications of this technology, because after all, why are we doing all this? It's to make things better, and to make things cheaper, and make things faster. So that was pretty amazing. And I just love Frater. He's very down to earth, and he loves getting his hands dirty, right? So and it's really cool conversing with him, and he has a lot of stories to tell, because he's been in the Hollywood industry for such a long time. So he's seen everything and anything and everything. If you remember, Aaron, we caught him in the parking lot, and he was kind of dropping knowledge about the production industry. Do you remember that at the end of the day?
I do, and he actually, I got to chat with him a little bit more as well, and he was talking about getting the first iPhone and how exciting it was, and how he's basically kept every iPhone and phone he's ever had. And I just thought that was so funny. He's like, "Yeah, I'm going to make a museum for my grandchildren one day," and I just thought I loved his enthusiasm about the tech for sure. So definitely. So after KinoFlow, we had a name that we've already mentioned, and that would be NVIDIA. What did NVIDIA have to mention?
NVIDIA. Yeah, NVIDIA was there too. And of course, they are a juggernaut when it comes to everything AI, volumetric, and anything next generation when it comes to 3D graphics. But they were there representing, and they were talking about their Omniverse platform. So we've got all their whole philosophy is, hey, we got all these people generating really cool 3D renderings and making nerf captures, and they're doing AI, generative AI. How can we tie all this together? Well, how about a metaverse like platform? And they're calling it the Omniverse. So it's kind of your one stop shop for where all your stuff can exist. So think of it as an online 3D community where you could upload your assets and you could share your stuff with other people. And not only that, but there's also tools that make it easy to create your own little metaverse. So they have a lot of cool drag and drop tools. They were showcasing that stuff, and of course all that stuff will play nicely with all the nerfs and volumetric stuff that we'll be capturing. So that was really nice. So they were there representing. And then let's see,
you can't have the platforms without the tools of the trade and little plugins and little widgets and things that make it easier. So that's where Valinga came in. How did Valinga contribute to this space?
Yeah. So Valinga, they specialize in getting nerfs into the Unreal 3D game engine. So Valinga has invented a plugin that allows you to import your nerf capture. So let's say you do a nerf capture of a redwood forest and you want to bring that into Unreal Engine because you want to make a video game, or you want to use that redwood forest scene as part of your virtual production. You want that red sports car driving through the redwood forest in Northern California, right? So how do you get from your nerf capture to the virtual stage? How do you go from nerf capture to stage? That's what they specialize in. They're solving a very specific pain point, and they're really good at what they do. So so as you can see, this is new emerging technology, and all these companies they're trying to solve little parts of the problem, and they're trying to fill in the gaps so we can all connect the dots as creatives, as producers, as technologists. Everyone's kind of helping duct tape all this together. So that was really exciting to see.
And then after that, we had the big infrastructure player. You may have heard of them, called Verizon.
Verizon, yeah. So they were there, and Verizon was talking about, hey, 5G streaming, we've got all this big data, all these 3D assets. How do we move all this stuff from point A to point B? Well, through 5G streaming, right? Because these 3D assets, they're not small. They have to travel somewhere, especially if we have teammates that are not co-located. Maybe they're the producers in California, the 3D artist is in Washington. How do we collaborate? Their whole angle is, hey, 5G streaming, we got to move the data. We're here to help. So that was fun to see. It was fun to know that we have different players in the realm of this technology and all the pieces. So
next two are startups, and the startup side, well, actually, the next three, but the startup side of this is super fascinating, maybe even more fascinating than the bigger players because of the innovation going on. So why don't you tell us about those?
Springbok, they are a creative shop, and they work with immersive technology. And they've been doing that since day one. They've made documentaries using 360 video where they go out to the African savannah and they interview people there. So they do 360 video. They've done AR experiences. They've made content for virtual reality. And most recently, they've been doing some production with volumetric video. So they are a creative powerhouse. That's what they specialize in. So again, it was really great having creators, having the users of these new technologies at the NeRF Summit kind of sharing their ideas. So the next we have Dengenuity Labs. So they're also a startup, and they are specializing on volumetric sports highlights. So imagine being able to watch that instant replay of LeBron James doing a slam dunk, but you're able to view it from infinite angles. So that's what Dengenuity is trying to achieve, being able to make sports exciting and enhancing that fan experience. Like we talked about earlier with enhancing the fan experience with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Arcturus is there. Oh man. So they're great folks. They are developing tools for editing and streaming volumetric captures because hey, what I love about this lineup, this roster is that we're touching all the critical points, right? Everything from content creation to capture to streaming to editing, right? Because hey, you've got these great volumetric captures. What do you do with them, right? Because we're in a, maybe you want to bring them into a virtual reality game because that's exactly what they did. And I'm excited. I'm personally excited because they've been part of the team for a reboot or re-release, reimagining of an old game from the 90s, an old puzzle point and click adventure game called The Seventh Guest. So that is really exciting to hear their involvement. And they talked about, or they showed off some exclusive footage of an upcoming of that upcoming game during their talk.
Absolutely. And they also, if I'm not mistaken, released a new format. Speaking of volumetric formats, and that was pretty interesting. That was a definitely breakthrough announcement.
Yes. Yeah. So I just love how all these companies are making strides towards, quite frankly, just unifying all these pieces in this ecosystem, right? Because it seems like we're all taking little slices of this puzzle that we're trying to solve. Speaking of puzzle games and point and click games, it's like we're trying to solve this bigger problem, but we're all taking little pieces of it. We're kind of dividing up the work here, and Arcturus is doing their share by working on editing, streaming, and creating some type of universal format, so all the players play nicely together.
Yeah, and that format was AVV, Accelerated Volumetric Video. So very cool new concept. Add that to the acronym glossary, which is growing very big and very large by day. And this is this company you've probably have heard of, and this first part of their name is something we use all the time. That would be Epic Games. What did Epic Games have to say?
Epic Games. Yes. Oh man. Yeah. Everybody was excited to see Epic Games because hey, I'd say 10 out of 10 of the companies we just talked about, they have used Epic before because it's the 3D game engine. They're the company behind the Unreal 3D engine, which is used for creating games and is used for virtual production and film. And what they were doing was showing off their latest R&D work for making more realistic volumetric. So if you remember this during their demo, they were showing off how they are trying to achieve more realistic textures and material. They showed off in a kind of museum format different exhibitions. So they showed like a very cool and realistic ostrich with very realistic feathers and physics to it. So that was really exciting to see their latest R&D developments. Again, working towards getting realistic, adding that realism, a little dash of realism there.
We had Disguise, who's also a very they are kind of the VP virtual production masters, frankly, and that was a really great talk. That all of these were really good. That one in particular, if you really like virtual production, yeah, you got to hear.
Yeah. Ade is great. He is really good at what he does. I remember him. I met him several years ago when he was at another studio, and we've always connected. And the overall great guy, and I just love his passion for virtual production. So he was showing off his system, and he was just showing off the advantages of virtual production and how NeRF and volumetric can play a key factor, play a key role in creating immersive environments, and how it really accelerates the virtual production workflow. It plays a big role in previs, that is before the actual production, being able to visualize the scenes beforehand, and also in post-production, reducing costs. And quite frankly, it was really exciting seeing him in his projects because he was actually also working on a lot of different projects, everything from TV shows to commercials to music videos, anything and everything. They've done it. They're experts in that domain, and they're really good at what they do. So everybody was on the edge of their seats, just trying to absorb and learn like sponges, just trying to learn everything they can about virtual production. So that was really awesome. Really glad he was there. A wild capture, yes. So they were on the content creation side, and they for this particular talk, they showed off cloth simulation. So they had a model that was volumetrically captured, and they were showing how they can have realistic clothing. So, and they were showing how they had the model wear a dress, a cloak, a scarf. And as the model was walking around this nature scene, the clothing was interacting and moving and swaying with her arms and legs just like it would in real life. So they were taking cloth simulation and having interacted volumetric. They were taking that to a whole new level of realism and immersion. So again, that whole idea of creating things, the whole idea of trying to achieve that gold standard of trying to make something realistic and immersive. So they were doing really great work. It was really exciting to see them, and they've been making moves lately, and it was really cool. It was really cool seeing some more creatives in the house. So we had a whole cavalcade of different characters and players, and with different roles in the NeRF in the NeRF octagon, right? Or not octagon, but in the NeRF ecosystem. Because so that was the VFA NeRF Summit. It was pretty awesome. And then we had tacos, and the tacos were awesome.
Yeah, tacos and fermented beverages, also known as beer and mixed drinks. So that was a good time, a good way to close out not only a full day but a full week before that of SIGGRAPH itself. Yeah, I think you guys did a tremendous job with the event, and I really enjoyed it. Was there anything else about the summit that you wanted to share before you tell us how we can hear these talks? Because I heard through the grapevine there was a way we can actually hear these talks for free.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, I would say it was a success, and we plan to have another one within the next year. So we'll let you know, and we'll open up invitations to everyone and anyone who's interested in volumetric and NeRF. So it was really cool. So we went over the presenters, but there were also a lot of great people in the audience as well. We had some folks from different production companies like Lucasfilm and AV Club, and all sorts of anyone who's anybody seemed to be there. So it was really exciting too, seeing the people mingling and conversing and networking. There were some folks from even New York City, some New York City XR studios as well. So New York City, what was the acronym? VP, right? First production. Okay, I'm trying to get my XR VP NeRF. No, yeah, there were some people from Canada, some people from New York, some people from all over the world there. So it was really exciting, kind of tapping into that energy and just it was a really good vibe. I enjoyed it. And then what's great is that, hey, we're talking about all the exciting things that happen behind closed doors. And well, guess what? We're going to make all that content we talked about, all those fun talks, available. Ooh, because we recorded everything. The videos will be available on the VFA website for community members. If you sign up to be a community member, by the way, it's free, 100% free, $0, €0, 0 yen, £0, free to sign up. And yeah, you'll get full access to the entire day of all those exciting talks. So, and in addition to that, you'll also have access to a lot of new content that is for members only. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. So sorry, it sounds like I'm advertising, but it actually is really useful, especially if you want to jump into the world of volumetric and NeRF, because it's a good way to stay connected with the community, because we're doing a lot of fun stuff, and it's a good way to stay on top of everything.
Yeah, I think my final thought on this whole situation is like the space is so small, and it's got all the sort of who's who before it grows. And it's like the summit, like literally, like maybe next year will almost be too big to even cover. This was intimate enough where we could do it. Like next year, it would probably be a 2-hour show trying to go over each person. And certainly in 3, 4, 5 years, I can only see the space growing. So kind of a special time with everyone. It's a more intimate, smaller group. And, it probably won't stay that way as this very highly in-demand industry grows and has more people enter. So before we sign off, how can we actually get access to those really like juicy talks that we discovered here?
Sure. Well, you can go to a website. It's volumetricformat.org/join. And you sign up for free, and we're actually right now setting up a members section, so you'll be able to log in and access those videos for free. And we are at the time of this recording, we're editing and uploading them. So they should be available by September.
Very nice. Well, Eric, thanks always for coming on and sharing the information junkiness that this whole space has become. If you're into emerging technology, you're probably interested in lots of cool ideas, information, concepts, and of course, technology. So yeah, Eric, thanks again. And we will see you again in the future, in the metaverse, and perhaps as a 3D avatar.
All right, I'll see you at the Wax Museum. I can't wait to see the Wax Museum version of our ETM robot mascot.
Looking forward to it. Take care, everyone.
Take care. Open up the barn doors and